there's a new study showing that red meat causes diabetes that is being discounted by keto doctors and carnivore doctors as well. I want to talk about why there is some truth to the claim that people who eat red meat are more likely to become diabetic than those who don't. And of course, I want to explain how and what you can do to minimize your risk of becoming diabetic. But first, I need to talk about the fake reasons that we use to blame red meat for causing diabetes. Because if we're too focused on the fake reasons, we're going to miss the real reasons that we actually need to pay attention to red meat and what we're eating. Now, extremely briefly, I want to talk about the research that the doctors have been pretty much screaming about. It's a study that's a meta-analysis of 3 other research studies. And those 3 studies put together bring us a sample size of 216,695 participants, 81% of them being female. So, of course, very interested in this outcome and this data. At least I am. I know a lot of my female audience will be too. The data was collected over 36 years, for up to 36 years, and the collection was a food frequency questionnaire. Now, the questionnaires were filled out every 2 to 4 years, but the damning evidence, right, is that 22,761 people became diabetic. That's 10.5% of the people in the study. That's pretty good, like high numbers. Now, the fake reason to blame red meat for diabetes is using faulty reasons based on logical fallacies. I want to talk about, what a logical fallacy is you're making a logical fallacy when you take a fact. For example, 99% of people who were murdered last year were wearing clothes. And then you jump to a conclusion so if you really want to avoid being murdered, you shouldn't wear clothes. Now, obviously, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because although it's logical, it ignores the fact that people who were murdered might have been hanging around with criminals and people, poor quality people. They might have lived in bad neighborhoods. And they might even have been in the armed forces or the police force, right? Now, even if the clothing was a factor, right? Maybe their clothes could have been related to the fact that they were wearing gang colors, for example. So, if we pay attention to the fact that in this study, eating red meat was associated with risks of developing diabetes, and most studies show associations, then we start to see the problem, right? Just because the study found that more of the participants ate, the more red meat the participants ate, the more risk they had, the participants were not on a special diet of any kind. They were eating a standard diet. That means they weren't keto and they weren't carnivore. Now, the fact that they were having several servings of red meat per month, even sometimes per week, is interesting since 1970, the entire world has been on blast about the fact that you have to be low fat, and avoid red meat if you want to be healthy. This actually is telling us that the people in the study were ignoring this very basic health advice that we've been told since 1970, and that's more than the 36 years that they would have been in the study. Right? Way more than 36 years they would have been in the study. So, what else might they be doing if they're ignoring this basic health advice that almost every single doctor that's not keto or carnivore will give you? Avoid red meat, eat low fat. Well, they might also be eating junk food, right? Maybe they're smokers. Maybe they drink. They might not even have a workout routine. We don't know enough about them except that they filled out this food questionnaire every 2 years, right? And even every 2 years. Could you accurately tell me what you ate last month on the 7th? Probably not. Okay, could you even guesstimate for me how much red meat you ate 3 months ago? 3 months ago, during that month, how much red meat did you eat? Could you tell me? Most people couldn't tell me. I know I couldn't tell you. And I eat meat every day. But how much of it was red meat specifically? Well, I could tell you because I don't eat red meat. But most people wouldn't be able to tell. I couldn't tell you how much of it was chicken. I couldn't tell you that. Right? Now, and I just said I don't eat red meat. So there's a piece of puzzle here that I'm trying to get you to. And my reason for not eating red meat has more to do with actual medical things than the reasons that they're giving you. So what about those people who are more careful and will limit the amount of red meat, like myself, right, that they do allow in their diet, right? Are they still on the road to diabetes like the study suggests? And unfortunately, I actually think the answer is going to be yes, because of one really important piece of the puzzle that we are just not allowing ourselves to pay any kind of attention to, right? Which is this, right? People who use beef in their lasagna will report eating red meat. And that makes sense, right? Because if you asked me, did I eat red meat, and I had a beef lasagna yesterday, I should say yes to that question, right? Makes sense. Well, also, you're going to have the people who had pizza, right? That meat lover's pizza, right? They're going to report eating red meat because, yeah, that's red meat. And then you have the people who, of course, had their cheat meal, and most people's cheat meal is a burger, fries, and soda, right? Like, that's the number one cheat meal that I've ever heard anyone say that they had. A delicious burger. Well, how often do we cheat, Wellness Warriors? Most of us, if we're going to cheat, we're cheating at least once a week. So once a week, I'm going to have either a burger, a pizza. Maybe I'm going to have both because it's a cheat weekend, and I might have burger one day and a pizza. But we're going to turn around and say, yes, of course, we had red meat. Even us who are trying to be as healthy as possible. Now, what about those healthy meals, though? Right? Meals that we have every single day. Did you know that there's 85 grams of sugar in the serving of pasta? Right? So that's carbs I'm talking about now. I want to show you something. There's no red meat on this plate. It's vegetables, pasta, a piece of bread there in the back corner. No red meat on this plate. Right? This person is trying to be extremely healthy. And what about this meal? Right? This meal is a delicious piece of fish, right? And some quinoa, apparently. And again, a cup of quinoa is 34.2 grams of carbs, right? I think that's quinoa. I can't really tell. No, I think that's rice. Okay, so, but even if we had a cup of rice, we'll switch it around. Doesn't matter which order I say this in. A cup of rice is 44 grams of carbs. So we have these beautiful, now this is chicken, right? And why are we eating these things? Because red meat shouldn't be on our plate. Red meat is dangerous to your health. Do not eat it. Well, I'm sorry, it's going to harm you. But can I just point out that we rarely, even in this story that I'm showing you right now, right? It's rare that we would ever have one serving of any of these things like that. If we have a cup of rice, it's because we've actually measured it, or quinoa or whatever, but that's clearly more than a cup of quinoa there. So the problem is we rarely have one. So you're going to take those carb numbers and multiply them by 2 or even 3. In my household, rice was multiplied by 3. So that's a lot of carbohydrate. And we haven't even touched the carbs that are going to come from the snacks you're going to have. So maybe you're going to have a granola bar. Maybe you're going to have some yogurt or some fruit or all natural honey, or you're going to put in your coffee. Why am I talking about this? This is a video about red meat causing diabetes. Well, we eat those things because we're not supposed to eat a lot of red meat, because we're supposed to eat only healthy meats, and we're supposed to eat only healthy foods, and meat is just not healthy, right? And diabetes is a sugar regulation problem. That means that we have eaten so much sugar over the years that our body can no longer regulate the sugar we eat properly, and we accumulate too much in our blood, and that's deadly. So, are you ready? Are you ready for the link between red meat and diabetes? Because we've been told to limit the amount of red meat that we eat, and we might eat it twice a week, maybe once a week, maybe even once a month sometimes. But when we eat it with rice, with pasta, with bread, and when we don't eat it, which is often, we eat grains and pasta and high-carb vegetables and fruits alongside our fish and poultry. So, those high-carb, high sugar foods we're always eating, driving our diabetes, because diabetes is a problem with regulating the sugar that you've eaten. We eat so much sugar trying to avoid red meat that we are harming our health. With the very small amount of red meat that we may still allow in our diets, because we're going to put a little bit in our lasagna, and maybe we're going to put a little bit in our tacos, and making our sandwiches with cold cuts with just like a little bit of meat, and we're going to put a bunch of vegetables and all kinds of other things. And then we turn around and we blame red meat for the problem of diabetes that we are living. We are all, as a nation, we're still struggling with diabetes, even though we eat so very little red meat. And all because we keep blaming meat when it's the carbohydrates that contain sugar. What's more likely to cause a sugar problem, Wellness Warrior? Food containing sugar or foods that contain no sugar? The scary link that does exist between red meat and diabetes is that when we do eat it, we tend to eat it with carby garbage. The garbage that we put beside our steak, beside on our hamburgers, right? Our roasts, our pork, our beef roasts. We are still eating food that are high in sugar, and our focus is on the red meat as if that's causing the problem. It's making our focusing on red meat is allowing us to ignore the real problem, right? That actually drives our blood sugar up, because we're not paying attention to the rice. We're not paying to quinoa. We're not paying attention to all the grains, the oats, the oatmeal, all the grains that we eat on a daily basis. The solution to this problem is so simple. It's to pay attention to the foods you're eating that actually contribute to the sugar content, so the sugar levels, to your blood sugar levels. Those are the foods that grow on plants. Those are the processed foods, those highly processed foods, bread, cake, bars, powders, that contribute to your sugar. And as Dr. Berry has pointed out to us and strongly warned us against seed oils, because they also contribute to insulin resistance. The best and easiest way that you can get these items under control, in my opinion, is to do a healthy keto diet. I have a playlist that I'm going to link in the description and on the screen to get you started on doing a healthy keto diet. wellnesssquad.org. You can go over there. Like I said, I'm adding new things to the library. Amazing videos that I think we can all learn from. And of course, the conversations in the chat as well. Like, I want you guys to connect with each other. So that's the best place where you can talk and not have negatives coming at you from YouTube. So if you want to have a chat over there, that would be cool. And I will talk to you next Monday at 11:20. Have a great day, guys.